Majority of archaeologists and researchers' ideas and suppositions are wrong, even though various proofs are sometimes so obvious that they could change their misled opinions. Some of their fantasies, such as the hilarious theory of the dinosaurs' disappearance 65 million years ago, or considering that the old continents of Atlantis and Lemuria are a myth, are now completely shattered because I saw very clearly then and there how things really happened. But for many researchers, it is probably more comfortable to soundly sleep instead of accepting the challenge of the unknown and admitting their limits. Exactly. I'm thinking that he basically probably just saw the hologram of possibly what happened on Mars, okay? Because I recently did some research on Mars and found that many of the old astronomers back in the 1800s, early 1900s, just based on the telescopes they had at the time, could see a vast network of canals on Mars running from bodies of water to cities because their bodies of water were sparse. So they had to run canals on Mars, all over Mars, okay? So, and the thing is different astronomers that were observing Mars at the time, in fact, drew the canals very similar. Almost, I mean, too close to not say they're seeing the same thing, okay? Even the U.S. Air Force had a drawing of Mars back in 1962 that had canals running on it. All of a sudden, they just decided that we shouldn't know that and cut it off, okay? They basically block it. Every time Mars is close, they will put some sort of, probably burn fuel, basically. They just run jets. They run chemtrails. They'll run chemtrails up in the atmosphere every time a planet's close, so the telescopes now can't see it because they don't want the truth to come out. Now, why? That's crap. I'm sorry. Okay, so I was also doing some research back to Mars. I know that's hard to fathom, guys, but it's probably what happened. And not necessarily us, but our ancestors, which may have looked quite a bit different than us. Nobody really knows. But recently, it was discovered that over 15,000 circular craters, perfectly circular craters, were found off the California coast in the ocean, on the ocean floor. At the time they landed, they basically said that none of these craters could be made by animals. None of them could. They had a bunch of old bones and all kinds of, they've been there for years, old bones and all kinds of sediment in them. But they went and researched them, dug them out, and they found that there was a set of 5,000 or so bigger craters, and there was a set of 10,000 or so much smaller craters. The smaller craters were 36 meters, I want to say, and the bigger craters were up to 500 meters. So I guess not common sense, but common alien knowledge or anything like that is thinking mothership, smaller ships, okay? So when they ravaged their planet with whatever they did, which was most likely nuclear war, which is where we're headed if we don't stop, they ravaged their planet with nuclear war, and they had to space jump. Now, they would have been much more advanced than we are. We're not ready to space jump yet, supposedly. Only the creme de la creme of society would know that type of stuff. The elites, the people with a lot of freaking money, the Bezoses, all those type of celebrities, Tesla, can't think right now very well, but it's getting late. But yeah, those guys, Elon Musk, sorry. So those guys are the ones that are going to know this stuff, the presidents and all that. Basically, those are the people who are probably ready to either, if something cataclysmic happens, go down to underground bunkers, or possibly even have a space jump situation ready. Kind of like the show 100. Pop something up into the atmosphere that can live for, or can sustain for hundreds of years, maybe nuclear energy, or solar, and they'll just orbit the Earth until they can re-inhabit Earth, whatever should happen. But hopefully nothing. I'm hoping. But crazy stuff here, guys. This is awesome. So 65 million years ago, the dinosaurs' disappearance was not a meteor, you guys. And that's crazy. So think about this. I was just thinking when I was reading about that red button that they push, and somehow it opens some sort of floodgate that pours the water in and floods the area, like a massive one. And then not only does it do that, but when it's done, it retracts back. That's crazy. Does that make you think a little bit about the flood? To me, it does. I think about the flood, at that point. If these beings can do that and flood some area, then a higher being can definitely open some floodgates, right? In the text, in the Bible, not to bring it up, but it says that when the Lord flooded the earth, the water came from springs of the great deep. Not just the deep. When he said the deep in his text, he was always talking about the ocean, or in the Bible. And that'd be like Old Testament stuff. If you can look past the aspect of God and all that stuff, if that bothers you, just strictly like looking at the Bible as a historical text, it's written funny, but it has to be at least somewhat acknowledged. So, is it possible that our Creator ultimately decided that at the time the humans or the higher beings or the ancient civilizations on our planet had gone too far in some way, shape, or form, like maybe the Tower of Babel, when they tried to build a tower to the heavens, mankind got a little too cocky, right? And maybe God had to, or our Creator, I should say, had to, wipe the planet of, basically push a reset button, right? They were so evil and had gone to such barbarism of things like cannibalism and, just basically any sin you can think of without getting too graphic. But in the way the Bible explains it, he didn't want to do it. Okay, he was not proud of what he had done after he had done it. And he even made a promise to Noah and his family, I want to say, or at least a promise to man. I want to say he said this to Noah or Enoch, maybe Noah's great grandfather, that he would never ever flood the earth again. He would never wipe the planet out like that, or wipe the species on it out like that. Supposedly the flood, that I've laughed when I've seen people on TikTok saying that it never happened, no flood ever happened. Total bullshit. I'm sorry, but total bullshit. If you look, there was one time where I truly believe in my heart that those pyramids, I know they say they're volcanoes and because they run on a fault line, but there's just not that many of volcanoes like that on Earth. And I'm looking around on Google Earth and I'm seeing what looks like pyramidal shaped structures. Now, Some of those pyramidal shaped structures, due to the pressure of the water, the peak or the supposed energy portion of the pyramid collapsed in. And if you look on the Google Earth, if you look at pictures, you can see it looks like a volcano because, in fact, they collapsed in and it left a big old void in the top of these pyramids. Okay? That's a theory. I don't know for sure. But you'd sure think if they were all volcanoes out there, there'd be a lot more erupting and a lot more stuff going on with them. There's not. I mean, you don't see anything on it. But it's just too vast. And they don't all follow the fault lines. They don't all follow the tectonic plates. Why couldn't the Mariana Trench, which is like really deep, miles deep, and all the trenches that those volcanoes are following, why couldn't they have been at a certain point in history the only source of fresh water? They're deep. It'd be like a spring. Maybe they filled so high and were actually full of fresh water at the time. If you look in the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic, all the volcanoes follow a perfectly, like, not straight line, but a perfectly carved path. You don't see any off in here and off in there and off in here, which you would think would be the case. They all seem to follow this perfect path, and any type of structures at all seem to follow this path. It's running from Peru down all the way up to, it cuts off to Hawaii. And if you look at Hawaii and look at the string of islands in Hawaii, look at the string of volcanoes or pyramids. To me, look at the string of structures that runs with Hawaii and then runs north to where it'd be Canada and Europe, or the very peak would have connected. Okay? Check it out, because you can see the trail where it went to land. Just as you can see the trail from Easter Island that went to land. And there's a trail from right around the Hawaii in the parallel area that runs west to China. And then it was all by land, and you can even see some in the Indian Ocean, but very few. So if this was the case, then to me, it's obvious. Those fault lines obviously had water, okay? Because if this was the case, all the vast area, north and south, all the ocean area that seems to not have much going on in it, would have been vast deserts. Bigger than any desert we have today. I mean, huge deserts. So basically, if you got lost, you were fucked. You were screwed. You were going to die, okay? So they naturally built near the fault line and followed this trade route because they had water there, okay? They had water there, and that's what they consistently followed and built along. Civilizations. And you can see it. It's blatant on Google Maps. I'm telling you guys. Check out Google Maps or Google Earth and check it out. I mean, it's to me, it's just, it's what it is. I know people love to hate, and they love to hate anything that goes against the grain of what we were taught in history and stuff. You know, but at the end of the day, if you think you know shit, you don't. Okay? And basically, if you're trying to hold on to that bull crap they taught us in school, toss it aside, because it is vastly different than what we thought. No meteor ever took out the dinosaurs. Our creator was bored, okay? Our creator was bored, and most likely he eliminated them the exact same way he eliminated the last group of the Nephilim and the fallen angels came down and bred with those humans. They created giants, Denisovans, Neanderthals,